Okay. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we continued working on my list of birding plugin ideas. Today, I'd like to take a look at creating a better version of the collections panel for birding. So, as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let me move some stuff around. Probably close that Twitch window over there. Don't need to have myself open right now. Okay. And we're over here in Gunhelic because I don't think I've finished off birding here yet. So here's a good place to be. Okay. Cool. So, where were we? Let's go ahead and go to our plugin manager and load up the birding log, and looks like birding log uses some turbine files that I moved out of the way. Let me go ahead and move those back. Great. Okay. So we're able to load up the birding log. There's currently no icon for this. I'm making my changes. I'm playing around in Vinny's birding log plugin as a place to test drive some changes of my own before figuring out whether that's going to be a standalone plugin or a patch or some other thing. So that's why we are looking at birding log by Vinny, and why you'll see a lot of inspiration from what they've done. Norris in chat says, hello, and Boxo Nothing says, I'd like to bounce back to something I mentioned earlier. Is there a way, during Little Redhead stream, is there a way to extract some data to feed a set of custom-made progress tracking spreadsheets? So, let's talk about where we're going today. Today, I would like to make a better version of a collections panel. And to do that, I am going to need some data. That is to say, I'm going to need an item ID for each one of these birds, if available, if possible. And so what I would like to do is be able to pull them out so that we can have a little icon, so that we can get the name if we need. And I'm actually going to be inspired a little bit by, by the Festival Buddy plugins. Let's pull that up as well. Festival Buddy, let's add that in. Alright, I'm using the LOTRO Plugin Compendium to download that. Let's go ahead and load up the Festival Buddy. Festival Buddy has a barter window, and so similar idea where we can have feed it an item ID extracted from somewhere, and have that show up. And in this case, we can even tear it off as a tooltip because you're just hovering over an item. Boot to the perfect curl. You can link it in chat by control clicking it and all of that. So yes, my question is, how do I get a list of item IDs for these birds so that we can make our own panel that lets us sort things, say, by area? So if we come into the birding hobby, all the birds of Breland, well, I think it'd be pretty neat if there were a list of regions here where I could say, only show me the birds that can be found in Breland that I have or don't have. Maybe only show birds of a certain rarity instead of just all of them. So better filtering options, that's what I'd like. So yes, Box, we're going to be looking at that very shortly. Alzeria says, quick question. Once in a while the plugins get corrupted, not necessarily yours. Is the only way to fix it in preferences. Palantir keeps putting a red square all over my screen, but cuts the screen down to middle in half, so half is normal, half is not. That's very strange. But it does lead me to one of the first pieces of advice I would give to people who are making plugins a dominant part of their playstyle is in your Lord of the Rings online directory, documents the Lord of the Rings online, there is a plugin data directory. I highly recommend, I moved all mine aside before we got started with this. There's a plugin data directory, and it's going to have stuff in there. Account, and then you'll see an... Oh, sorry. I didn't share that part. Aha. Okay. Account, and then all servers plus any servers you play on. All characters plus any characters. I highly recommend backing up this plugin data directory on the regular. Depending on how often you play, you might want to do this once a week, once a month, once ever. So, this is where a plugin stores stuff that can be different. So the plugins that you download, that's all the functionality and whatever. But anytime it saves custom information, it must go into the plugin data directory. So if you save this off, you now have a backup. So if a plugin goes weird, you can just move that plugin data back in, or you can do fine-grained, very specific files coming back in. But if for whatever reason a plugin stops working, you now have recourse other than deleting all the files associated with that plugin and starting over. So this is more of a help yourself in the future than fixing any specific things. So you say Palantir keeps putting a red square all over my screen, but cuts the screen down the middle in half. I don't actually use Palantir very often. You might do better to either post on the Palantir page on LOTROinterface.com or in the forums. But if Palantir specifically, you notice the problem because you unload Palantir and everything's fine, you load Palantir and it causes a problem, you can specifically seek out Palantir save files in your plugin data directory and either rename them, move them out of the way. Palantir should kind of restart in a known good default state without those files. Most plugins are used to doing that because that's the way your plugin first starts up. When it starts up, there are no save files, so it sees that and creates some sort of default settings. Now, with Palantir, you may not want to delete everything because you may have made a bunch of settings that you care about. So that's a very blunt thing that if you were using it pretty much out of the box and now it's not behaving right, that's a way to get it back to the out-of-the-box state. I think Little Redhead is possibly confusing Palantir the server and Palantir the plugin.
Oh, yeah.
In chat there. They are two different things, though they are confusingly named the same thing. If you go to LOTROinterface.com and do a search for Palantir, as we can see, there's a bunch of different Palantirs in here. If we go ahead and sort by date, the most recent one is Palantir 3. Nice. So, you got me curious. Let's go ahead. Loading up the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. We'll go ahead and add in Palantir 3. Add. Awesome. And we'll go ahead and remember, if you add or remove plugins while LOTRO is running, you need to hit this green arrow button for them to show up. We now have Palantir 3. And neat. So, out of the box, it seems fine. I'm guessing it only shows up when you're in combat or when it first loads. Neat. So, yeah, if you haven't done much customization, that would be a thing you could do, is just delete anything in plugin data, your plugin data directory that is called Palantir. With the caveat, big asterisk, I like making backups of things before I delete them. Copy it to somewhere else so LOTRO doesn't see it, then delete files and see if that resolves the problem. That's a very coarse way of doing it. I would need to look at the problem specifically on my machine and look at the code of why it's doing it to get a better sense of what's going on. And it's possible that Loki here or someone else might be able to answer that question. You can post questions in chat here, and it looks like that author has a Discord server. So you can post questions here, you can go to that Discord server and post questions there, and you might get a lot more specific, fine-grained support than my very blunt, have you tried turning it off and on again? If you have screenshots, or if you have screen capturing, video capturing software, you might try to capture like a little 5-10 second clip of it happening. Especially if you can regularly trigger it. It's not happening, now it's happening. That it can be invaluable for a plugin developer to track something down. Because sometimes you'll just get a bug where it's not working, and you're like, it should work, it works on my machine. And being able to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's having that problem by having a little video, a screenshot, detailed information, it just cuts to the chase so quickly. I had someone who had a D tracker import issue the other day, and because they had a screenshot with the log entry I needed, I was able to do the rest of the diagnosing of the problem on my own without having to badger them of, oh, can you try this, can you try that, can you do this? But if they hadn't included that screenshot, it would have been like, I don't know, works on my machine. Which isn't a very friendly answer. Okay. Awesome. If you say it's on your screen, yeah, go ahead and have that clip, and you can send it off and be like, hey, what's up with that? And that'll be a super easy way for that to work. Now, that being said, Palantir does not by default have an apartment. And that means you can't unload Palantir without unloading other things. To know whether whether a plugin has an apartment or not, and that's a term that we can talk about if that is helpful, you can do /plugins space list. Anything that has something in the parentheses after it is loaded into a customized apartment. And LOTRO doesn't let you unload plugins. You can either unload every plugin, or you can load all of the plugins in a specifically named apartment. So I could unload all of the loaded plugins in the Festival Buddy apartment. Well, good news, there's only one plugin in the Festival Buddy apartment. So I could unload Festival Buddy without unloading anything else. So that can be a thing you can do, is you can modify the Palantir plugin .plugin file, to say, please give it an apartment. And then if it's starting to weird out on you, you would be able to unload it without unloading any other plugins. So if that sounds interesting, we could talk about that. I was going to ask, what's the command again? /plugins, and you can see that just below my face, I hope, if I've done that correctly. And then if you do just /plugins, it will give you the usage of /plugins. But in this case, we're doing /plugins space list. In the command here, it says /plugins, and then you can either load plugin name or unload. They call it a script state. You'll see it sometimes called script state here. Sometimes you'll see it apartment or apartment name in other places. But they're talking about that kind of umbrella space. Because of the way Lua plugins are working in LOTRO, they don't occupy their own isolated space. They go into what's called an apartment. And when plugins get loaded in, they can modify the apartment. When another plugin comes in, it can modify the apartment. They can get each other to do things. And so it's very tricky to isolate what in an apartment belongs to one plugin or another. It's just not what they're trying to do with Lua. So you can't just remove a plugin, because what does that even mean? Would you just it's hard to envision. But you can tear down an apartment, or as it's called here, a script state. So if I do /plugins space unload space Festival Buddy, and this is all one word because it's just that text right there, then Festival Buddy is unloaded, but Palantir stays loaded. This is very convenient if you want to unload a plugin without unloading all plugins. If you're using a plugin helper, is it one launcher? I forget. I'm sorry. On LOTRO interface, there's at least one plugin helper that's sort of meant to replace your plugin manager. You log in, it's the only plugin that loads, and then you can press a button to load everything. You can load your plugins one at a time, probably more complicated things. So it might have a way to be like, load my normal set of plugins, like my saved state. Whereas this plugin manager, that knows how to automatically load when you log in, but you can't be like, just do that again. Just reload the automatically load stuff. It is possible to do it as a plugin. The plugin manager, however, does not have that functionality. So it's neat that plugins can replace the plugin manager if you so want. Okay, awesome. Thanks for those questions. Let me know if that gets you anywhere in the right direction of solving your problem. Sorry I don't have anything more specific. I have loaded Palantir once or twice, but it's never really stuck with me as the way I want to present my heads-up information. So I don't have a lot of experience using it. Okay. Box of Nothing was asking about data, and I think that's a great place to continue. Like I said, I'm interested in the Collections panel window here. And instead of showing every possible bird and only being able to filter undiscovered or needed or both. No, okay, that's an exclusive or. I would like to add other filtering options, region, difficulty, that kind of thing. So an invaluable tool in the LOTRO plugin community is LOTRO Companion. Let's see, do I have this? Where did I put it? Gotta find that link. Excellent. So, LOTRO Companion has a tool LOTRO Companion is both a standalone desktop application that you can download and the author name of the person who writes it, or sometimes the author name. That's their Discord handle. So sometimes I'll use it to refer to a person, sometimes the software. LOTRO Companion, the software, can poke at LOTRO and get a sense of what your characters at, what deeds they've completed, what quests they've completed, what equipment they're holding. But he also understands how to crack open the data files and extract information about them. So if I was interested in, for instance, hobbies, I might come into the lore hobbies.xml and get a sense of, okay, here's fishing. Is there birding information in here? Bird. Cool. So hobby identifier, birding. And in here, there are territories, and there are birds in each territory. There's an item ID for each bird. Awesome. This has the information that I think I need to generate at least a basic panel. I might not be able to get all of this information out of here. Certainly, I could get the found in. I could recreate that. Habitat? Maybe not. Maybe not even the type of the bird. So if I wanted to strip that information out, it would have to be a more manual thing. But certainly the name of the bird, what proficiency you need in order to find it, how likely it is, we could pull that information out if that was interesting. And definitely the item ID, which is the main thing. So knowing that I have this available to me, I would go ahead and then write a little program that processes this XML file and spits out a Lua file with the stuff that I want. However, it would be helpful to get a sense of what that would look like. So what I'm going to do is going to pause on that for a moment, go in and see if I can just get a single bird to show up in a window. And if we can do that, we can start refining it. However, for Box of Nothing, you might check out that link and see if it is what you are talking about as far as grabbing information about the game out. If you are interested more about character-specific things, you can download the LOTRO Companion desktop application, and it does give you the capability to do a scan of your character and pull in information like completed deeds and what equipment they're holding on to. So we're going to let this finish up here. Awesome. It's all done. And I can then go in to my character and say, hey, what quests am I missing, for instance? So we're currently working in Eastern Gondor. So I want to know what quests have I not completed. Okay, got them all in Eastern Gondor. Great. Eastern Gondor Losnark. Awesome, got them. Osgiliath. Oh, we haven't actually gotten there yet, but soon. South Athelion. Oh, okay, we're in progress there. Upper Lebanon. We're just missing that warband, but that means we've done all the rest of these. Og says, hello. A new player here, are you making a plugin? That's the goal. I'm talking about lots of things, depending on what people ask. But the goal for today is to make modifications to the birding log plugin. Now, I did see that I was perhaps breaking something. So, birding log. Let's load this. Awesome. Unload. And load. Great. I'm in some sort of weird state. So let's sort that out. I actually have some uncommitted changes here that I was playing around with, so we could review those as well. Okay, so what do we see? We have some error messages here, and when we have error messages, they usually include line numbers, and that lets us go to a specific line of code. Why do I have multiple fork windows? I only need one of those. So we're going to come into the code here, and we're actually going to go ahead and close a bunch of these and say, okay, we need BL window, line 143. Attempt to index question a nil field. Awesome. Let's figure out what's going on with LOC string. Alex says, nice. I don't know anything about this game, but I am familiar with MMOs, so I kind of understand what you're talking about. Absolutely. In just a moment. Okay. Yeah. A non-zero number of MMOs use Lua, the scripting language, to be the plugin language or the add-on language in WoW terms. So Lua is useful not just for Lord of the Rings Online, but for other games or other purposes as well. So this is written in Lua, Lua 5.1 specifically, or a subset, the sandboxed version of that for Lord of the Rings Online. All right, so we just gone ahead and said we want to dump this out. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it is we are doing here. Right. I was making assumptions assuming that LOC string would be filled in. Okay. Cool. Box of Nothing says... Yeah, if they can capture some data to generate a local file from which they can read data to fill in their own custom-made documents, that'd be what they're looking for. So yes, the way LOTRO Companion works, this specific program, is it understands how to look at things about your character, and once it finishes the scan, it writes it all out to a file in your local system. So it is available offline at that point. So in this case, it's going to my, well, it goes to where you tell it to, but by default on Windows, it'll go to your C drive, users directly, your username, .LOTRO Companion, and then into data. So character scans would have a bunch of different scan data. Now, you'll have to know which character is which, but since I just did a scan of... Interesting. Why are some of these older? Okay, I would have to double check which character is which and to make sure that they're still writing here and I didn't move all the data somewhere else. But the point is that you can come on in here and take a look at whatever it is you're looking for. If you're looking for information about quests or deeds or hobbies or whatever, you can come on in and there will be an XML file that gives information about that. So for instance, deed status for whatever character this is, and maybe we can figure that out. Let's see, summary, there we go. This is Verzekering, awesome. And Verzekering's deed status just looks like this. For each deed in here, there's going to be a key indicating the name, and just a name just so you can tell what it is, and then what's going on for each of the objectives of that deed. Is it completed? Is it underway? That kind of thing. And that's going to be true for every one of your deeds. And that's just an example of some of the information. So what I do is I take that and I process that into the format that I'm looking for. Okay. So what's going on with this code? Well, one of the things I was trying to work on, and maybe the only thing that's really going on here, is a keybind window. So one of the things I wanted to do was let the user say what key it is that is going to activate their birding skill, so that we only react to that if that specific key is pressed, and a couple of other qualities as well. Where's my birding kit? There's my birding kit. Let's go ahead and get that on. So, in the options screen, what I have here is a set birding keybind. And this is modeled after the key mapping window, where you press one of these keys and it pops up with a window and says the next thing that you press is going to be the key that will be used here. Awesome. So set birding keybind. Press the key you use to activate the birding hobby. Click on this window to cancel. So if I click on it, it goes away. If I set that and I press 1 down here for this birding, well, clicking on it doesn't work because we're not looking for mouse clicks, we're looking for activation. So there we go. I've told it it is the quick slot 1 keybind. And now it understands that whenever I press that, I am birding. As we've discussed before, when you're birding in Lord of the Rings Online, it's roughly divided up into 3 10-second segments, where in each one of those you can get a white feather event that if you're successful at it will give you a better chance of getting a bird, I think. And then there's a cooldown section at the end where generally your skill is on cooldown. Doesn't seem to happen 100% of the time, but in general, your skill goes into a 3-second cooldown after you've caught your bird. You can only get 1 white feather event per each 10-second period. If you get it or not, that's the only one you're going to see for that. So we call it the bark green, let the time progress. Alright, and there we can see that 3-second reset there. Awesome. So, that was this keybind window. And I'm going to go ahead and do some commit of this here. And then come on in here. Yes, I remember that is. Okay. Awesome. That was a hard-coded key. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to have that. And in here, keybind window, yes. Burning action, great. These were other bug fixes. We're going to come back to that. Great, that all looks great. So, in our to-do, where was this? Figure out what skill the player is using to activate birding. We did that. Birding isn't a skill, it's a hobby, so it's not in your list of active trained skills, which is unfortunate. I would like to tie into that cooldown to have a better sense of that you actually activated the skill. But it's not a skill, so. I decided following down the trail of the page up, page down was madness, so we're not going to do that for right now. Alright, so the last thing was, how do we know that, or how do we weed out chances that you're not actually birding? So we're going to come into timer control. Awesome. So, if the thing that you pressed is the action, and if you've got your birding item equipped, and you are not in combat, then we assume that you have successfully birded. That's the best we can do at the moment, I think. So yes, bird equipped, you're not in combat, you press the birding key, we assume you birded. Done. Okay, we added the option to set the birding keybind. Fantastic. We'll put that there too. These are fixes, that's fixes, great. We're going to circle back around to that. Okay. The set zone has a shortcut behind it, and that shortcut was really quite obvious, and I wanted it to be at least a little bit subtler for this alias. So that's what one of these changes is. Let's go ahead and make shortcut less obvious. So that is, I think the color blend actually didn't matter, and I don't like committing code that didn't matter. Let's go ahead and bring that back up. Yeah, it didn't do anything. That was the one we were talking about. Okay, get rid of that. So, don't assume blockstring will have anything in it. That's a bug fix, and then bug fix, use a zone abbreviation instead of name where appropriate. Great. Fantastic. Okay. A thing I did, and apparently I've already committed this, I had forgotten that, was accepting regional chat notifications when we change regions. We can automatically detect what zone we're in. Let's take a look at that right now. So we're going to go ahead and return to probably Thorin's Hall. Well, Thorin's Gate. When we do that, we will change regional chat channels, and the plugin should automatically identify then that we are in Ered Luin. Let's see. Fantastic. We're now in Ered Luin, and we can double check that if we went to Lalia's Market with a different cooldown. We should then be told that we are in Breeland for the purposes of birding. Now, of course, Btown has its own regional chat channel. So if you're doing this, just be aware of the subtlety that regions and... Cool, we're in Breeland. Regions, as far as regional chat is concerned, is not quite the same thing as these things that are underneath the Eridor, Ravani, and Gondor, etc. There's a lot, mostly the same, right? Edidvaith just has one regional chat channel. Aragian only has one. But Ered Luin has 3, maybe 2. Bree has 3, I think. Let's see. Breeland, Btown, and Archet are all Breeland. Ered Luin and Thorin's Hall are Ered Luin. And I think the rest that we care about right now have 1. So just be aware, if you're looking at the regional chat channels to say where you are, in some cases they're slightly more granular. If you're in the Btown regional channel, then you kind of know for certain that you're not near the North Downs, you're not near the Shire, you're not near the Lonelands. But also, it's possible for the game to lag a bit and not change your regional channels just when you change your region. Or if your chat channels are misbehaving, you might not see it at all. So just because you didn't see a message saying you're in Angmar, doesn't mean you're not in Angmar, as an example. So just take that into account if you're using this as a tool. But it's a very good tool. We can see we entered the Thorns Hall regional channel, we entered the Arid Lewin role-playing channel, and the Thorns Hall out of character channel. And also the Btown channels here. If I leave town here, we'll see that I'll leave the Btown Regional and OOC channels probably. Let's see. I think I'm getting seasonal allergies this week because of the seasons changing. Not a fan. Now the Btown Regional area extends a little bit beyond, but somewhere around this bridge, there we go, we can see we entered the Breland Regional and OOC channel. And if we come back in this direction, we'll see back into Btown, Breland, Btown. This is a very convenient place to test any sort of region detection code that you might have. But, as we can see, we stay in Breland the whole time. So, excellent. So what I want to do is each one of these buttons here, zone birds, list zones, birds seen, personal totals, those all are linked to dumping stuff into chat. And I think that's fine for people in general, but I am interested in having a button open up the new collections window that I'm going to make. So I'll either repurpose one of these or just make a new button. OG says, is there any graphic mods or shaders for this game? I think I have seen people talking about a shader that they use in conjunction with Lord of the Rings Online, but I have no personal experience with it. You might check over on the forums, forums.lotro.com. Just do a search for shader, reshader, that kind of thing. And you'll probably find people talking about it. I personally find the default LOTRO experience pretty and pleasurable to ride around in, so I haven't sought out any variations on that. Okay, OJ, you're reading it on Reddit. Awesome. Then you have access to better information than I do on the subject, I think. Okay, let's go ahead and pop open the new window. Actually, I could see popping up the window with each of these just in different states. But we'll start with the birds seen button, and we're going to start making modifications to that. So let's come on in here. Now, I chatted with Vinny a little bit, and it sounds like the changes I'm making, they're not very interested in incorporating in their plugin directly. So this is either going to be a patch or just a completely new plugin by the time I'm done. This is just a convenient way to bootstrap ideas that I have without having to write everything from scratch. So I'm not too worried about getting the right button right now. The important thing is to play around with the things I want to play around with and then come back to that later. So, birds seen. Great, a setting listing button. Awesome. What we want to do here is go ahead and open up a new window. We should probably make a file for this new window. So it's going to be collectionswindow.lua. And we want to make sure we include this from our main. So we import vinny.birding.log.collections window. Fantastic. And it might be useful to have some basic stuff here. So we know we want to make a little class out of this. So this is going to be collections window. And do I actually use that still? Yeah, okay. Don't need it for this though. All right, so we're making a collections window constructor. First thing we got to do is dispatch to the base class. And then the second thing, just for us to be able to see something, we're going to go ahead and, whoops, see what does it say? Okay, just collections. Birding collection. And is that the right thing to say? Happy birding, great. Okay. So we're just going to set the title of the window, and that's fine. And at the bottom of that, we're going to go ahead and do an instance. And that'll be our singleton that we're going to use. And I'm not a big fan of singletons, but they do make development a little bit faster here. So we're going to do it anyway. Okay, and then here we are going to, this is the birds scene. We're going to go ahead and say collections window instance set visible true. Let's see what that looks like. So let's reopen our plugin manager, unload, reload, and click on bird scene. Awesome. We've got a window. Now, what do we see about this? It is a default constructed window. Its position is in the upper left, which is 0, 0. Its size is about as small as you can get with a window. It is not resizable because we didn't turn that on, but it does come with an X button. And it does know how to move itself around if you click and grab the title bar. So we're getting some stuff for free because we're doing a LOTRO skinned window and not just a turbine.ui.window, which doesn't give you any of that. It's just a place to put controls and you have to do everything else. Okay, what can we see right off the bat? Well, it is not large enough, and it would be nice if we could resize it so we could take that into account sooner in the development. So let's go start playing around with this. So collections window, self set resizable, true. Self set position. Let's just start with like, I don't know, 500 over and 300 down. Self set size. And I don't know, let's go with 500 wide and 400 tall. And go ahead and give us that. Bam. Now, we did see that it did not rise to the top when we said visible. That would be a good chance to activate as well. Now, does activate make it visible? Activates a window, bringing it to the front. I'm going to say it probably doesn't, but we'll cover that later. Okay, even though I clicked it, the result of that clicking after I clicked it was to adjust the Z order of this window. Perfect. All right, we have a collections panel. What we want to do next is go ahead and try and get a bird on here. What's the first bird in this list? Arantar's tern. Let's see if we can find that. Cool. So we have an item ID for that. Let's make a... Okay, there is a data file. I suspect I'm not going to keep things the same as what Vinny did here. So let's go ahead and just make... Did we make it there? Do we try to understand this a little bit better? Hang on a sec. Six BC 7D. Oh, that's funny. Vinny has assumed that all of these will start with 700, which is not necessarily wrong. but it does feel unnecessary. You have saved 3 characters on, I don't know, 50 or so birds. How many are they? All right, 214 birds. You saved 3 characters on 214 birds. Whoops. That is less than a kilobyte of text here. And it feels like if you're going to store these as strings instead of as numbers, then you didn't care that much about the space in the first place. I don't know. It's an odd juxtaposition. Either way, we don't have to feel beholden to it. So we're going to be splitting this out. So we're going to go ahead and have collections data.lua. And we're going to say bird IDs equals. And we're going to go ahead and just have a single ID here. And we want to remember to import that. Okay, so we are importing collections data. In that we have bird's ID, so we can go ahead and create something that lets us lay them out here. Now, that looks to me like maybe a list box, so let's go review what our options are with a list box. LOTRO. All right, list box. A list box container performs automatic layout of its children. That sounds good. And monitors when any of its items are clicked and tracks which one's currently selected. All that sounds great. What are some of its methods? Excuse me. And specifically, I'm looking for ones that are not inherited from control. All right, flipped layout. That sounds interesting. Get item, max columns. Interesting. Max items per line. Deprecated use, get max columns and get max rows. Awesome. Let's take a look at those. I don't know that we want a max. I wonder what happens if you set it to 0. Okay. What else do we have? Get wrapped index amount. Gets number of pixels to indent. Wrapped rows. Interesting. Probably want that to 0. Insert, index of, remove item. Now, we're not planning on ever removing anything, although filtering is interesting. Okay, so if there's no filter option, the way there are on tree views, then we'll want to take that into account. Okay, tree view has it. I guess I'm surprised that list box doesn't. Oh well. Is there something else that I'm missing? Control list? No. Okay. So we have some ideas about what we could use to mimic this. Let's go ahead and make something. I'm going to go ahead and open up. Oh, I can't use that. Festival Buddy 2, in its barter window, is also using something here. I'm going to guess list box of item controls. So let's go ahead and, whoops. That's fascinating. Let's go ahead and look at the Barter window. Visual Studio Code is just taking a long time to launch right now. Okay, so do we have a list? We have a list box. Awesome. What are we putting in there? Stuff and things. Just show me exactly that, please. All right, we are adding in a row, and that row contains stuff. All right, there's a helper function in here, get item from ID. We're going to have to look at that. And then item, get item info. Awesome. So that's going to be an item inspect, an item info control. Cool. So we need an item info control. Let's play around with that idea. So in that case, we're going to come on in to here and grab this list box instantiation. Make the list box for the birds to appear in. Okay. I don't like that abbreviation. List birds will be fine. Let's start getting rid of some of these magic numbers. So set size, we're setting to width and height. Local window x equals 500, local window y equals 300, and we can go ahead and use those as well, with the idea that these will eventually be pulled from a configuration file instead of hard-coded. Okay, burden collection, yes. Then we can set size and set position based on these other things. So we want to set the size equal to, sure, window width minus something. Now I'm a little curious. Where did this 422 come from? Its parent is this. That thing's size. Oh, it's actually setting a little wider. That's interesting. But this thing is 480. Okay, so we're shrinking it down by 60. Interesting. Let's follow that for a moment. And then window height minus 120. That's fine. Now I will say list birds. I'm going to set the background color of this to something because otherwise I have a big problem believing that things are where they are and the size that I want them to be. So we're just going to set that thing to be dark green. Okay, let's at least see that in action. Great. It could actually be a little bit wider and taller. All right, I'm going to use the poor man's editing tool of MS Paint. Let's take a look at this. So we can see we could be another however many pixels this is up pretty easily. So we could be another 35 pixels taller. Let's do that first. All right, window height. So 85 and 45. Okay, we can see it could also be a little wider. Let's come take a look at that. This is currently 20 pixels on that side, but it's 30 pixels on the other side. So let's just make it 10 pixels wider. Cool. Symmetric enough for our purposes. Now remembering, the window can be resized, so we need to do something about that. But we have a beginning. Now we want to go ahead and add a bird and make progress there. So we have a scroll bar. That'll be important. Let's make a note. Needed a scroll bar. Okay. What else? Needed self dot size change equals function, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What else? Refresh bird list. Great. Function collections window. Reset bird list. And we might eventually want to pass stuff in. Filters. But for now, we're going to go ahead and, in fact, I'm going to slide this up somewhere. Okay, so we have the list. In fact, we want to make sure that this is self dot list birds. Self dot list birds clear items. Okay, what next? And then we're adding an item. Cool. So self list birds, add item, and it needs to be a thing. So that was a control. Local bird control equals turbine.ui.control. Do we need a whole control though? What if we just did the item? Bird item info. We're going to go ahead and initialize that to item info control. What else did we use over there, and do we need it? All right, set parent, self. Set size, okay, so position. I don't know that that's necessary. We're gonna go ahead and comment that out. Set item info, we don't actually have that yet. But we can backtrack. Where did item come from? That's from get item from ID. Okay, what does that look like? If it's hex, then item hex equals that. Function takes an item ID, for instance that, and returns an instance of the item. Where have I been doing this recently that I felt like I streamlined this a lot? Probably the Titan bar. Let me go look at that a sec. Documents. Where are we using item info control and Titan bar, if anywhere? Well, it might not have been. All right. So, what are we actually doing? We are getting item hex, which could be get hex. Oh, that is funny. Feels like a very manual way of re-implementing a two-string formatting. Okay. Function we need a get item from ID. So if the type of this is string, if type of ID equals string, then else end. Assume it's a hex string. Return ID. Okay. Otherwise, we want to format as hex string. Which is going to be, do we have an example of it? We do not. Let's go look at the barter items. 0x. Okay. We want to format it like that. Cool. Sure seems like we shouldn't be writing our own formatting. So but the rest of this all seems plausible. Let's take a look at that. Item hex. What's wrong with that? Oh, yeah, I did change that. The rest of that should be fine. So we're either going to return the item or not. Sure. And then we're going to go ahead and just finish up the formatting here. So item ID hex equals string.format. And we're going to go ahead and toss in, first of all, it is a string that contains what we want. Lua string.format hex. Okay, so 0x, and then we want it to be %x, I think, and that's going to be ID. All right, so %x, are you on there? No. Where are the string.format flags? Okay, we'll just try it out. So turbine.shell.writeLine using item ID hex, and that's going to be this. Okay, so we have a function get item from ID. Local item equals get item from ID, and for that we're going to come back to our bird IDs. Add item. If item does not equal nil, then add item. Cannot assign item to parameter control. All right, so that seems plausible. Yeah, okay. We're not fully using this. Once we have the get item from item ID, what are we using it for? We get an item, and then we're going to put it into an item info control, right? So we needed that up here. I was misremembering what to do about it. Great. Let's play around with that. Okay. I'm not 100% sure that it's doing anything. Let's not skip the part where we put it into a control, huh? Okay. Local bird back equals turbine.ui.control. And then bird back, set parent, self, but in fact, why did I have a back? Uncertain. We'll come back to that. We don't actually need a background, but set back color. Dark something. Dark red. That's probably enough. Okay. Are we able to make it show up? That is disappointing. What do we think we're doing wrong here? We're making a control. Setting the back color, why not? Setting the size. Same list that add item. What else am I missing from this thing? Oh, sure. Let's see if we can set the selected index. Actually, self.listBirds, set selected index. But before that, I'm going to do turbine.shell right line list count. Self list birds get count, get item count. I want to see that. Okay, invalid member function call. That's exciting. Oh, I've been seeing that for a while. Okay, is it the add item? Did I mess up there? I probably messed up there. I don't use list boxes very often, so I gotta figure it out. No, invalid member function call. Where? Oh, of course. I'd never called a reset bird list. That's one thing. Awesome. Using item ID hex. Fantastic. So let's come on back. We have collections data, which should have a bird's ID. Let's go into main. We have collections data. Awesome. Just to double check. I can't call dump before I include that. What on earth is wrong? Okay. So we can see bird's ID is correctly populated. Awesome. Sometimes it feels like I'm fighting against it. Collections window. I thought I had a 1 on there. Cool. Using that, great. Attempt to index the local item, a nil value. All right, we're making progress because we actually did use the correct hex. Fantastic. Oh, okay. The 0x is already being taken care of there. We don't need it. Fantastic. And there we go. Okay, we can see the 0, 0 position of the Arantar's turn is placing it in the wrong location in this place because the bird item infos set parent bird back. That's fine. Set position, but this thing is setting the parent to the wrong thing. Let's go ahead and set the parent to list birds. Great. That's definitely a start. What we'll want to do is we'll want to make a control that looks like this. In fact, we'll probably copy it very much. Using that same background would be fine. Or just a bluish background with more solid colored. Then we'll have the name. We can do a fixed width based off of what this window does. That's fine. And then we can include the name for the current locale. And that'll get us most of the way there. Okay, well that wasn't quite as much as I wanted to do today, but I am feeling like my throat would be appreciative if I didn't talk for the full 2 hours today. And since we're coming up on an hour and a half, now's a great time, I think, to get any last minute questions, comments, concerns into chat while we are finishing up what we have here. So, what are we missing? What do we have? Okay, collections. We're going to go ahead and move this up. So we have a list box. We need to make a new collections control of a standard with imitate behavior in collections panel. Rollover effect, clicking, and so on. Include name of bird and add enough IDs to list that we can see list boxes wrapping. And then write pre-processing code to generate a list of IDs. What other information do we want? Localized name for each language. Maybe that's it. So these will be generated as .lua files, so they'll again be static data. It won't reflect what you've seen or what you've collected. It'll just be the list of here's what we know is available. Okay, well that definitely gives us some direction to go when we pick it up next time. But if sometime in the next couple of weeks, I am going to be getting back to Titan Bar and possibly Festival Buddy as always during a festival. So birding is going to go along in the background here, but I am going to be setting it aside to do some other things as well. If you are an ardent birder and are really interested in some of what we already have, for instance, automatic zone detection or timer or whatnot, shoot me a message somewhere and we could talk about doing a release earlier. But for now, we're just going to keep plodding along with those changes as time permits. Okay, well, not seeing any last minute questions, comments in the chat. So that is everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I hope to see you here next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.